It's 11 a.m. right now in Montreal. It's currently 31 degrees Celsius, 35 with the humidity, which is definitely a heat wave as far as Canada goes. And I thought I'd make a little video sharing a few of my tips for anyone who is traveling during a heat wave. Tip number one. You might have guessed this based on where I'm standing right now. This is an indoor air-conditioned space that gives you some unique local architecture, gives you some shopping opportunities, gives you some cool fountains and stuff to look at. Wherever you're going to during a heat wave or during the summer months, you can probably find some cool places like this where you can have a tourist experience without burning your face off. More specifically, if you're going somewhere like, let's say, Southeast Asia, the Philippines is a country I know that gets really, really hot. And the Philippines has a culture of huge, famous shopping malls. And it's very common for Filipinos to hang out in places like that during heat waves. It's like a very social meeting place, not just a place to shop, but a place to hang out, meet friends, stuff like that. And so I think as travelers, we often feel like, I'm not going to go to a shopping mall when I'm traveling because, I can do that back home. But in my experience, even everyday things like shopping malls or movie theaters, if you do go to that place in a new country, it's going to be its own kind of fun experience because every country is a little bit different. So don't underestimate a nice air-conditioned experience. Now, as we step outside, I'll give you my second tip. Oh, there's that sun. It's nice for the first couple seconds, isn't it? But it quickly can get to be too much. But if you don't want it to be too much, here's my second tip. Check the monthly climate averages for the city you're going to. This can be as simple as typing the name of your city and then monthly climate into Google search, and then usually it'll pop up a nice little table that shows you all the monthly averages. So definitely something to consider before booking that trip. All right, now the third tip. This is more of a general piece of advice for anyone experiencing heat wave, whether you're traveling or not. But I think for tourists and travelers, it's really important to remember. And it's watch what you drink. People on vacation tend to drink a lot of alcohol, and sometimes you forget to drink enough water. Alcohol can dehydrate you. Same deal with coffee in the morning. If you have a big coffee, which I usually do, but you forget to drink water, you can definitely pay the price. If you can, remember to just chug a glass of water between every other drink. Let's say you're sitting at a beach somewhere and it's 40 degrees and you just have a glass of water between every beer. That will definitely stop you from getting dehydrated, and your body will probably thank you for that the next day. So very obvious tip, but worth stressing because water can literally save your life. Tip number 4, learn from what some local people do in these climates you're going to. Specifically, learn from that beautiful Spanish tradition known as siesta culture, which is just like the sleeping hours, which is mid to late afternoon. I mean, it's amazing. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but in small Spanish towns, literally everything closes. Even the banks will close for a couple hours. And everyone just goes home. Usually you have a late lunch and then you sleep for a couple hours because it's just so hot that no one wants to do anything. To give another example, when I lived in Vietnam, I spent 6 months in Ho Chi Minh City, and I was always amazed by how during the day there's just no one on the streets. Everyone's in cars or motorbikes zipping around from their air-conditioned home to their air-conditioned business. And at first you'd think, oh, this is kind of weird, there's no life on the streets. But if you stay up late enough, around 9 or 10 p.m., or frankly, sometimes even at midnight, you'll see all these people exercising, running, biking. In the cooler, darker hours of the day, the streets are full of people. When you live there, you need to adapt to certain rituals, certain schedules. And if you can adapt your trip So you're planning less during those hottest hours and more during the cooler or darker hours. You're definitely going to have a better experience. Which leads me to my fifth and final tip, which is kind of related to the last one, but I think is big enough to deserve its own point. And that is generally just plan less. And I get it, you know, if you're going to Paris or something and it's a heat wave and you're like, well, I have 12 different things I want to do and I only have 3 days. It can be hard to internalize this advice. It can be hard to admit to yourself that maybe you should only do 7 or 8 of those things. But I can tell you that if you are rushing around in the heat, you're going to be exhausted after the second activity, and it's going to diminish your enjoyment of everything. You're going to come away and your main memory is going to be how dang hot it was. And frankly, even if it's not a heat wave, I always recommend doing less things and taking it a bit slower, taking some moments like I am right now, sit in a park, drink a cold drink, and just appreciate where you are for a minute or two. That for me is something I've noticed all experienced travelers tend to do, but people who don't travel a lot, people who have short vacations, tend to really like to cram a lot of activities in. But cramming activities and living through a heat wave do not go well together, so it's okay to do less. You're not missing out. It's a paradox. It seems like by doing less, you're gonna miss out on things. But by planning too much, in fact, you might find yourself racing around so much that you miss out on the true experience of what that city is all about. Anyway, I hope this video can be helpful for some people. As always, I'm Dan, coming to you from a hot and humid day in Montreal. Stay cool out there, and we'll catch you all next time. Peace.